Welcome to the regular meeting of the City of Morgantown Board of Zoning Appeals. Please turn off all cell phones or other devices that may disrupt these proceedings. The Board of Zoning Appeals conducts business in the following order. There will be, I'm just going to read this as, is that all right? I've got planning verbiage here.
Elaborate, like as the...
Well, instead of saying Board of Zoning Appeals, it's literally Planning Commission.
yeah, that just...
I'll just read it as, okay, it's similar enough. I just wanted to let you know.
I appreciate that.
All right. There will be a general public comment portion when anyone who wishes to address the BZA, but only on matters that are not on the agenda. As with BZA, there is a 5-minute time limit for speakers. All recognized speakers must approach the podium, state their name and address for the record, and speak clearly into the microphone. Speakers are notified that relevant comments or comments of a personal nature or personal attacks may result in the speaker forfeiting their opportunity to participate in the general public comment portion. We will review, amend, and approve minutes of the previous meeting as needed. We will then move to unfinished business from previous meetings. We will then move on to new business items on the agenda. I will introduce the item, and the planning representative will present the staff report for each of the cases. We will then ask each applicant or petitioner to make a presentation representative of the case. And the board may ask questions of the applicant or representatives at that time. We will then open a public hearing to hear testimony in support of or in opposition to the case. Rules regarding public testimony are as follows. Anyone wishing to testify during the public hearing may do so once recognized. Each recognized speaker must approach the podium again, state their name and address for the record, and speak clearly into the microphone. All comments must be addressed to the board. Speakers are notified that irrelevant comments or comments of a personal nature or personal attacks may result in the speaker forfeiting their opportunity to participate in the public hearing. All speakers will be limited to 5 minutes. If members of the board have any questions of the speaker, that time will not be counted toward the speaker's total of 5 minutes. If there is a large number of speakers, including many who are part of groups or organizations, we may, to avoid repetitive comments, elect to ask for a representative to speak on behalf of the case or applicant. We may elect to recognize the applicant agent at the end of the public hearing to provide rebuttal or additional comments, which will be limited to an additional 5 minutes. If the members of the board have any questions of the applicant agent, that time will not be counted toward the applicant agent's 5 minutes. After all testimony is heard, we will declare the public hearing closed and no further public comment will be permitted. At that time, no one in the audience may speak again unless a planning commissioner, or I'm sorry, a zoning board member asks a question. If someone is asked a question, they must come to the microphone and identify themselves. Next, the board will discuss and take action on each case. Uncivil, unruly, and/or disruptive behavior at any time during this meeting is prohibited and will result in removal from this public meeting. With respect to the board, any decisions that this board renders can be appealed to the Circuit Court of Montague County, and any work done in that 30-day period is done at the applicant's sole financial risk. I just want to state that up front. And we'll state that again after determinations are made and variances, et cetera, are granted or not granted. Okay, so We're going to call to order, roll call, Ms. Cook,
Here.
Mr. Misfelt.
Here.
Mr. Benison, present. We do have 2 absences. Despite those absences, we do have a quorum, so we can proceed. We are considering meeting minutes from our May 21st, 2025 regular meeting. Any comments, discussion, proposed emendations to said minutes?
No, I'd move to approve.
All right, we have a motion to approve, seconded, motion by Mr. Misfelt and seconded by Ms. Cook. How do we vote?
Aye.
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 So we have approved or accepted the meeting minutes from the May 21st, 2025 meeting into the record. We're going to move no old business. We're going to move to new business. The first case is VAR 25-030 Jessica Adams at 716 McKinley Ave. Request by Jessica Adams for variance relief from section 1335.04 of the city's planning and zoning code regarding setbacks. It's referenced as City Tax District 13 in the 5th Ward, Tax Map 25, Parcel 138, in the R1A Single Family Residential District.
Yep, I will begin staff report, but I'm going to do that.
Wireless.
So, VAR 2530 Jessica Adams, McKinley Ave. In the packet supplied as well as in the presentation in the room, this is showing the location of the variance, the home, as well as the radius to send out letters. This is a closer zoom in just to give a better understanding of what the property looks like in as it is close to today. Attached is a picture of the site plan that was submitted for the building permit that is as well as found in the packet, showing the proposed shed on the top right in red with 1 feet setback from the side property lines, as well as the rest of the home and other structures on the property. The applicant wishes to construct an accessory structure shed at the property referenced above, shown there. This structure will be a standard 8x10 storage shed. Related sections of the code and correspondence with neighbors can be found below in the packet. The board members have copies of what these attachments look like. Would you like me to read them, or is it sufficient in the packet?
No.
In summary, the applicant wishes to construct an accessory structure shed within the rear and side setback of the property. The applicant is requesting 4 feet of setback variance allowance for an accessory structure. Staff have no objections to this applicant's request for variance relief. Please see the attached application to review the findings of fact listed, as staff have had no comments or modifications to these. This attachment can be found below the conditions. If the Board of Zoning Appeals grants the applicant variance relief from section 1331.08 of the city's planning and zoning code, this accessory structure shall be subject to the following conditions. And there's only one condition on this variance, being any other modifications or changes to the site plan shall be compliant with the city's planning and zoning code, or the applicant shall seek variance relief from the Board of Zoning Appeals. And that concludes my staff report. To move my stuff over here.
Before we invite the applicant to come forward, for accessory structures, Mr. Thompson, can you just speak to, I'm noting the dimensions, 8 foot by 10, and then 10-foot height. I'm not saying that this is going to exceed any maximal height restrictions, but can you, for accessory structures, is there a maximum height?
There
Is
is.
it- Is it 18 foot?
You're correct.
All right. Do we have a representative for this case?
Yeah, I'm here.
Would you like to speak to your application? So just name and address.
Jessica Adams, 716 McKinley Avenue.
And so you're proposing?
Yes, I'm
or just-
proposing an 8 by 10 shed in the corner of my property. And it's probably only 1 foot away from the property line.
Right. Is it going to be on a slab or just, or like elevated on cinder blocks at all? Can you
I
speak
think
to
we're just
that?
going to put gravel down.
Just gravel, and then right on the
Yeah.
ground surface? All right. Any other questions? So it's just a storage shed then? Okay.
No lights, no electric.
No.
I don't have any questions.
It's pretty straightforward. We may have other questions for you,
Okay.
but not at this time. Thank you very much. No questions? It's pretty straightforward. I mean, I just, yeah, let's go ahead and open up. No other questions? No. We're going to go ahead and open the public hearing for this case. And again, this is case VAR 25-030, 716 McKinley Ave. Anyone wishing to speak in support of or in opposition?
Support of. Yeah, I'm at 714, Casey Black, 714 McKinley Avenue. If you look at the structure, I'm the closest one. I am the, what did you say, a foot, 4 foot from.
Right.
And then the
Yeah,
other.
yours is quite close.
Yeah, then the other lady is Charlotte. She's in the hospital. She just went in the hospital today, actually. I speak for her, too. I cut her grass and do all the things. It's going to do
So
nothing.
you're in the hip roof,
I'm
structure
the-
that's
yeah.
hip roofed
Right.
to the, like if you're looking at the front of
Yeah, yeah.
Miss Adams, to the right, you're to the right of her.
Yeah, yeah. Can I go over here? Yeah, this is my structure.
That's yours.
That's where she wants to build a shed,
Right.
and this is Charlotte. It's
Yeah.
not going to affect
Oh, yeah,
anybody. If anything, it's going to help us. There'll be a barrier.
Right.
Maybe a little bit of a barrier.
Because yours is quite close.
Yeah, so that, if there's anybody that's going to be affected, it'd be me or Charlotte, and it's not going to hurt either one of us.
All right,
That work?
sure, thank you. And could you just state your name one more time and address?
Jason Black, 714 McKinley Avenue.
Just for the record, all right,
Yep.
thank you very much. Anyone else wishing to speak in support of or in opposition to this case? And again, this is VAR 25-030. Seeing no one, we're going to close the public hearing. Discussion. I mean, I thought that the 12-foot height was a little unusual, but it's not in
under
excess
18.
of what's allowed at 18 foot. The
Yeah, we
other
just need to-
consideration is the 1 foot to the corner of the property. We do have correspondence, we just had someone weigh in, stating he's, and his structure is definitely the closest to the proposed accessory structure, stating his clear lack of opposition to what's proposed. We do have, there's correspondence, and I can read it into the record. Is it for this? Oh, this is actually, that's for a different case. But we do have referenced in the packet, there's a text, a neighbor sounding off, or in response to the question, do you have any objections to me building a storage shed in this corner of my property? And the text thread responds, no, not at all. I think that's the first text thread that we've had referenced in the packet.
Yeah, that's the first one I've seen.
So, I mean, it's fairly straightforward. We're granting the variance for the setback, the 4-foot setback. Do we have discussion on, do you want to just make a?
Well, the setback's going to be 1 foot, right?
Yes.
It's a 4-foot variance
4-foot variance that
from the
we're granting.
5-foot setback.
So it is, I mean, it's right there.
What about the findings of fact? I know that there's one that was blank. I don't know if we want to move some of our other ones around. Because we do have to, there's, especially for it's the one about the special nature of the property itself.
Well, there was the AC unit. So your AC unit is like right adjacent to the structure, and practically speaking, I mean, there's nowhere else to really cite. She'd have to, I mean, she could cite it. Can you speak to where your AC unit is right now?
Come up there. What did that-
Well, no, Miss Adams. Yeah, hers. Is it, so it's not,
You can use this if you'd like as well.
It's like right here.
right, that's where I thought, yeah, so the
that's
AC is
actually
like
where
right in
we
there.
wanted- Like, we would put a shed there, but because of the AC unit, like that corner's the best.
Right. And she can't cite it here.
Yeah, that's like the only place.
I mean, the other possibility would be to, can you speak to, like, can you characterize or describe the deck?
It's raised up off the ground, maybe like 3 or 4 feet, and we actually thought about that too.
Just citing it right adjacent to the
Right
deck.
against the shed, but that, which would be right here. But that's how we get, there's like an access to the crawl space under the house right there,
Oh, really? Okay.
like right there.
Because then if you were to scoot it up right adjacent to the deck, then you'd
Yeah,
only
we
need,
talked about that.
then you'd only need like, it looks like maybe a 1-foot variance.
But-
And you wouldn't need one for the rear. You'd only need a side yard setback of about a
But
foot.
because we need access to the crawl space, it wouldn't work, but we thought about it too.
I mean, that's a special
And that
condition
might-
of the property itself. That kind of makes this variance required. Because you can't put it on the other side,
No,
or she would need less of a setback variance.
right. No, but if you put it here, apart from the crawl space issue, and even you're kind of maybe potentially hinging on the functionality of the deck anyway.
Right.
But if you put it here, then there's no rear yard setback required. That takes care of that. If you put it there and then only about a 1 foot, I don't know.
But you can't change the crawl space.
And I mean, a shed is not something, it's not an unreasonable development of the property.
And it is movable, actually, because
It's
it's only
not-
sitting on gravel.
Right, it's gravel.
If
If something were to change with the deck, if you decided, you know, the deck reaches the end of its use life, and you decided, we're not gonna go with the deck. Deck's coming down.
Yeah.
And then they ship the shed right into that footprint. All right, well, okay, so,
Were there any conditions for from planning?
Yeah. What?
well, yeah, the condition is, yeah, let's make a motion on the finding. Do you want to make a motion on it?
I'm
And
going to
I'll-
accept the findings of facts as stated in the packet.
Seconded.
Okay, so we have a motion by Ms. Cook to, on the findings of fact, seconded by Mr. Misfeld. How do we vote on the findings of fact?
Aye.
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 Do you want to speak to the condition?
I can speak to it. There's only one condition upon the variance, being that any other modifications or changes to the site plan shall be compliant with the city's planning and zoning code, or the applicant shall seek variance relief from the Board of Zoning Appeals, basically just meaning if there's any edit or change to the site plan and it would be in violation of another code that they would not be receiving variance from tonight, then they would have to come back or become compliant if a change is to occur.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Thompson. So I am going to make a motion to grant the requested variance for VAR 25-030, subject to the condition that Mr. Thompson just referenced, to grant the variant, the
I'll second.
requested. So we have a motion to grant the variance for case VAR-030, seconded by Ms. Cook. How do we vote?
Aye.
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 So we have granted your variance request, subject to that sole condition. Please keep in mind that the decision that we just rendered can be appealed to the Circuit Court of Monongalia County, and any work that you undertake during that 30-day appeals window, you do at your sole financial risk. You will receive written notification from planning generally within a week. So,
Okay.
thank you very much
Thank you.
for coming down this evening. Next case is VAR 25-042, Cole Bozick, 204 Kingwood Street, request by Cole Bozick, and I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, Bozick, on behalf of Ryan McLeod for variance relief from section 1335.03 of the city's planning and zoning code regarding minimum lot provisions, City Tax District 10, Second Ward, Tax Map 29, Parcel 438 in the R1A Single Family Residential District.
So in the packet and on the screen, similar to the last one, this is showing the parcels in question here, as well as just kind of the neighborhood around. This next image is a bit of a closer look to give a better visual. That shows a plat kind of map of the parcels showing what they look like, the residence parcel on the top as well as the apartment parcel on the bottom, showing the property lines, dimensions, things like that. It's a little hard to see up here, but in the packet it's a little easier to read the dimensions on it. According to the applicant's agent, Ms. Bozick, at some point in time, the garage apartment associated with 350 Coben Street was sold to another private property owner, creating two parcels and generating two tax tickets from the Monongalia County Assessor's Office. According to the Monongalia County Clerk's Office electronic records, 204 Kingwood Avenue has been recognized as its own parcel of land since at least 2008-2009. By deed reference, the plat map provided by Ms. Bozick, which was up there, is dated December 20th of 2016. Note, the plat map was not stamped, signed by the Planning Commission. Upon further review, the current owner appears to have acquired the property, being 204 Kingwood, in July of 2020, after it had already been separated from the parent parcel of land, being 350 Coben. The Planning Commission at this time has reviewed their new subdivision request and has approved it with conditions, one of which is receiving variance for the referenced sections of the code. Related sections of code can be found in the packet. In summary, the proposed minor subdivision would create two non-conforming parcels of land as it pertains to the lot provisions. Furthermore, there are instances where the minimum setback and encroachment requirements may not be met with the proposed subdivision in a R1A single-family district. The variances that they are asking for parcel 437, which is 350 Coben, the variances for that parcel are 19 foot 6 inches of rear setback relief, as well as approximately 400 square feet of minimum lot size relief. For parcel 438, which is 204 Kingwood Street, they're asking for approximately 2,410 square feet of minimum lot size relief, 8.2 feet regarding minimum lot frontage, about 34% of lot coverage relief, 2 feet regarding minimum side setback relief, 20 feet regarding minimum rear setback relief, and 2 feet 6 inches regarding awnings, eaves, setback relief. Please see the attached application to review the findings of fact listed. As staff had no comments or modifications to these, this attachment can be found below the conditions. Staff do not object to the applicant's request to address the longstanding issue of a property being subdivided and sold without review/approval by the city of Morgantown. If the Board of Zoning Appeals grants the applicant variance relief, the new lots shall be subject to the following conditions, being, I believe, just one condition of any other modifications or changes to the site plan shall be compliant with the city's planning and zoning code, or the applicant shall seek variance relief from the Board of Zoning Appeals. And that will conclude my staff report.
Do we have a representative for this case?
A few of us, and one of them is on virtually.
Yeah, Ryan should be online.
Yep, that's me here.
So Ryan, would you like to go and just speak to, could you just state your name and a reference
Sure,
address for the record?
Yep, my name is Ryan McLeod, and I'm the current owner of 204 Kingwood Street. And yeah, as stated, we purchased the property in 2020, and have owned it ever since we have since moved away. Like, we lived there, and since moved away, turned it into a rental, and now we're in the process of selling that house because we moved out of state. And the new buyer's attorney has found this issue where the subdivision was never approved through the city of Morgantown. And so we're just trying to go through the proper channels to get this approved, so that we are able to sell the property. And we're just, kind of going through the motions of putting in the application. We got approved from subdivision, now we're putting in the application for the various variances.
Thank you. Any questions? Would you like to?
Is this the
Speak.
time, or do you want me to do it when I'm talking in support of?
Are you one of the property owners, to be clear?
I am the real estate agent. Until last
I see.
September, I was the neighbor. I owned the house next door on the left, and the owner to the right is also here, so.
I think,
The adjoining owner of the 350 Coleman Avenue.
yeah, I think we'll have you, sir, speak on behalf or for 350 Coleman. And then your comments are probably most appropriate in the context of the public hearing.
Good evening, my name is Akili Wartz. I'm the adjoining owner of 350 Coleman Avenue. And my wife and I bought 350 Coleman Avenue in October of 2016.
Right.
At that time, both 350 Coleman Avenue and 204 Kingwood were owned by the same individual, Tony Kitzmiller. He sold us the main house, and he kept the carriage house until he sold it to Ryan and Martha McLeod in 2020. We were under the impression that the subdivision was already done at that time.
He's the one that should be arguing for this.
Can you speak,
So,
can you speak to when when that subdivision happened?
we don't know, but we believe that it was subdivided sometime around 2009. We bought in 2016, and that subdivision had already occurred, but my understanding is Mr. Kitzmiller did not have a new survey done when he subdivided, and there were errors in the property lines that have now been corrected. Your staff report mentioned that there was no signed copy of this survey, but that has been found and has been filed and recorded with the city. The corrective deeds were filed by our attorney shortly after we bought we bought in 2016, and late in the year. By 2017, in January, those corrective deeds and corrective quitclaim deeds were recorded with the city. The only thing that apparently was not recorded was this survey, which was referred to by those corrective deeds, and the city did not fully, that city records did not fully reflect what we thought had been changed. So our understanding was that our property was our property, the carriage house was someone else's, and we carried forward with that belief until we learned that there was some sort of discrepancy. The carriage house, by the way, has existed since at least the 1920s in exactly the same form. I have photos from the West Virginia Historic Society that show it in that exact same position and in that exact same use for about the last 100 years.
So to the best of your knowledge, the deeds represent reality with respect to the subdivision that has occurred.
Correct. As of 2017, those deeds did reflect that.
And there's a survey that wasn't necessarily recorded, but
It existed,
it's in support of the corrections to each of the deeds.
It was ordered by our attorney when those discrepancies were discovered in 2016, and apparently not recorded by the city, although they also thought the corrective deeds weren't recorded, and then they found them recently. So we do have stamped original copies of the survey, which, again, we've now recorded as of July the 9th with the city.
So I would say,
It's a little late for any of us to be unwinding any of this now, so.
right, but that gives me peace of mind because the deeds are in order,
Yes,
and there's a survey
yes. Including,
referenced for each of the subdivided properties, and if the answer to that question were no, then we wouldn't.
including easements
I would
that
feel very
that give right of way to both properties
proceeding
for
with-
that division.
Trying to square these circles with respect to the variances, if that deed work had not been completed and recorded. Do you agree?
I agree.
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
We may have other questions for you.
Of course.
Ready for the public hearing? Okay. Thank you, everyone. We're going to go ahead and open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak in support of or in opposition to case VAR 25-042-204 Kingwood? Now's your opportunity.
I can't say much more than
Name
30.
and-
I'm sorry,
Go.
Jen Haggerty. I am the real estate agent for the McLeods, and I did own the house to the left, 214, 212, until last year, which we had an easement between the two properties so that the wall that abuts basically is very clear that both properties can use it. So we provided that to the city as well. Again, it's been like separated since at least 2009. I sold it to the McLeods in 2019. We didn't have an issue at that point, but it was also COVID, so I'm sure things got overlooked at that time. Now they're trying to sell it again, and we've been held up. The poor guy who's trying to buy it is probably paying fees on his interest rate, as Ms. Cook would understand, because we're 2 months out of the timeline for closing on the property in order to get this variance. So we would appreciate if there was no further delay.
Encumbrances.
Yep.
All right,
Thanks.
thank you. Any questions of any of the parties? Insight from you? No. Okay. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in support of or in opposition to? Going to go ahead and close the public hearing then. Thank you. What do you think? I'm glad the deed work was done.
This is just recognizing how everyone else has been treating this property for a long time. I mean, it wouldn't even be practical in any respect to go back on it now anyways.
As you, the word you, to unwind.
Unwind, yeah.
Hit.
It's way too late for any of that.
Right? Yep. But the deed work's been done, and the surveys have been done.
Yeah.
All right, so, no further discussion then? Okay. So, let's look at the findings of fact.
I'm going to move to accept the findings of fact as it's all been stated. It's there. It's the same.
I mean, some of the variances, the aerial variances, I just want to state for the record, are not insignificant.
All right, 2,400.
What do you think, Mr.? I mean, yeah, the aerial variance is not insignificant.
Right.
Mr. Thompson, can you, conditions on this? Just so we can reference that, make a motion.
So, the condition on this variance is any other modifications or changes to the site plan shall be compliant with the city's planning and zoning code, or the applicant shall seek variance relief from the Board of Zoning Appeals. As previously mentioned on the last variance, this basically just means if there are any changes or new updates from this meeting forward that don't apply to these variances, then they would have to either make it compliant or seek a further variance relief.
So, Mr. Thompson, in regard to that, I guess my question might be, in granting a variance of such large space, how does that affect going forward with other variances?
Attached specifically to this property or as in general?
I guess as in general.
Well-
Because I guess what I'm asking is, if you grant a variance to them, does that open it up, like,
To like other properties making a request of that size? Or?
yes, and having that extreme broad,
Well, at least as far as what the ruling on this variance would do, it would only apply for this property, and it would just depend on the board's logic and reasoning as to why they deem approving it is appropriate, or denying it is appropriate, depending on how the board votes. All of the variances are kind of parcel by parcel, so it would just depend on the board's interpretation of the ruling.
I mean, adjacent properties they're not in the same situation because it wasn't like an attachment to a house previously that's been separated. I mean, there's a couple of houses like that in South Park,
right?
but
There are.
not very many.
Right.
South Park Green
There are
Mountain.
other carriage barn
Yeah,
scenarios in this.
but that's about the only situation that's gonna be able to, that's as unique as this,
As
as if
this.
it's another carriage house. I mean, somebody next door or somewhere else in a more typical property isn't gonna have all of these peculiarities.
Right. I mean,
I don't think, it's not like something neighbors are gonna be able to point to in their own variance, because they don't live in carriage houses.
and in terms of the garage and apartment, it's not as if, given the configuration of that lot, which was subdivided, which is, it's not as if the property owner there is going to be looking to, just given the, the configuration of that lot, there aren't going to be, it's not likely there'll be future variance requests for like an, accessory structure, for example.
Yeah.
Just given, with respect to that property anyway.
Right.
I'll second the motion to accept the findings of fact.
Okay, so we have a motion to accept the findings of fact.
Well, I think Heidi already motioned for it.
Right, by Ms. Cook, seconded by Mr. Misfelt for this case, VAR 25-042. Yeah, I just want a little 2,400 variance.
So why is that bothering you so much?
That's because that's 2,000 square feet. It's, and the other one, of course, is the 34%.
Yeah. See?
Okay, well,
I mean, otherwise, it would basically have to go back to that adjacent property owner eventually. That's the only person who would have any use for it.
right, that's the only other possible
And then it's just
scenario.
going to be, and all they're going to want to do with it is rent it in the first place, I mean, this increases like the housing available.
That's one way to look at it in terms of housing stock.
Yeah, I mean, what else can you use this property for if these variances aren't approved?
Right. All right.
I mean, it would probably unleash a whole lot of other dominoes with past property owners.
Right. Okay, well, all right, I move to grant the variance request for this case, VAR.
Do we vote on the findings of fact?
Oh, we didn't actually take the vote, okay, so I'm sorry. How do we vote on the findings of fact?
Aye.
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 Go ahead, make your motion.
Now I can make the motion for the variance. So I move to grant the variance, the requested variance for the aerial variances for VAR 25-042 for 204 Kingwood Street, subject to the sole condition referenced by Mr. Thompson.
Seconded.
So we have a motion to grant, seconded by Mr. Misfelt. How do we vote?
Aye.
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 So we have granted your requested variance for your case.
I think we missed something. Did you say with the condition?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah, I just said, subject to the sole
Okay.
condition referenced by Mr. Thompson. For this case, you will receive written notification from planning, typically within a week. The decision we just rendered can be appealed to the Circuit Court of Monongalia County, and any work that you undertake during this 30-day appeals window, you do at your sole financial risk. Thank you for coming down this evening. Okay, next case is VAR 25-054, Carl Bergamini, 336 Mulberry Street, request by Carl Bergamini for variance relief from section 1333.03 of the city's planning and zoning code regarding minimum lot provisions, City Tax District 15, 4th Ward, Tax Map 7, Parcel 167 in the R1 Single Family Residential District. Mr. Thompson?
So as seen in the packet, as well as on the presentation, here is the properties in reference, their location, as well as the range of where we kind of send out these letters. Here's a close or view of the property, just kind of showing it more zoomed in to see, topography and other factors on the property. Here is, it's better shown in the packet, what was presented to the kind of planning commission on how the property will look like now, as well as on the frontage on Mulberry Street, an indicator of the current lot frontage. It says 65, again, it's hard to see a little bit up there. So, the applicant wishes to consolidate parts of her adjacent parcels at the property referenced above. This consolidation has already been looked at and approved by the Planning Commission contingent on the Board of Zoning Appeals ruling regarding the minimum lot frontage. The lot frontage is currently 65 feet on Mulberry Street, where the homeowner's place of residence currently is, once again indicated on that site plan on there, as well as in the packet. In summary, the applicant wishes to consolidate portions of their adjacent lots. The applicant is requesting 5 feet of variance relief from their minimum lot frontage requirements. Please see the attached application to review the findings of fact listed, as staff have had no comments or modifications. This attachment can be found below the conditions. Staff have no objections to the applicant's request for variance relief. If the Board of Zoning Appeals grants the applicant variance relief from Section 133303 of the city's Planning and Zoning Code, the lot shall be subject to the following conditions. There is one condition on this variance request, being any other modifications or changes to the site plan shall be compliant with the city's Planning and Zoning Code, or the applicant shall seek variance relief from the Board of Zoning Appeals, which has previously been discussed. If there's any changes or submissions regarding this property in any manner that isn't compliant to the city's ordinance, they will seek variance relief or make it compliant going forward. And that concludes my staff report.
Thank you very much. Do we have a representative for VAR 25-054? Thank you, sir.
Hi, my name is Carl Bramini. I'm Ms. Hayes' architect, and we've been working together just to look at the parcel consolidations. One thing I did want to point out is the frontage requirements of 70 feet is actually not widely,
Right.
sort of existing of what's there now. I think 1260, I kind of did a quick GIS survey. 1260 has a 60-foot frontage. 1256 Oxford has a 65, 1248 has a 65, 340, 65, 341, 60, and 325 Mulberry, 55 feet. So essentially, this is, we're making the lots larger so that we can, potentially put an accessory structure on it. And we're kind of coming up against this sort of requirement here. So this is sort of just a map here showing, in the adjacent to the blue property, all the parcels that are really of the same kind of caliber and condition.
Right. With that 65-foot on average setback.
Do you want to say anything, Sharon?
Go, yeah, by all means.
I am Sharon Hayes, and I'm the property owner of, my home is at 336 Mulberry Street. And my understanding is that all of these lots were subdivided back in the 40s when DuPont had their supervisors on the bigger corner lots, and the worker bees were in the middle lots. And my husband and I happened to buy one of the worker bee lots. And I also understand that, but for the fact that it's 65 feet as opposed to 70 feet, we wouldn't be here.
Right.
And we're seeking the variance on the fact that it's not compliant with existing code. In order to combine it with the adjacent lot.
Right.
There's a lot of precedent in the neighborhood for combining lots.
Right.
The two lots on either end of Oxford and overlooking Oxford, the residences facing
Right.
are all, one involves 3 lots and the other involves 2 lots. With it, on the other end of, outside of the blue, the Espositos, I think, have 2 lots. You know, if you walk through the neighborhood, there's many
Right.
properties where lots have been combined. So it's not unusual, it's not outside of the precedent in the neighborhood.
Right.
And with that, I would just ask that you grant it. We have tried to, in working with the staff at the Planning Commission, we've tried to make sure that we're being very cognizant of, we don't want to have a throughway, so that's one of the reasons for dividing the lots the way they are, so that we would prevent the ability to drive through.
Right.
There would be a lot of plantings and trying to improve the visual appearance of the area. I was joking with him before, I like to bring Cooper's Rock into Suncrest. And so that's what I want to do. If you have any further questions.
We will do that. Thank you very much. Thank you. Any questions of anyone?
No.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and open the public hearing for VAR 25-054. Anyone wishing to speak in support of or in opposition to, now is your chance to do so.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to speak here tonight.
Just your name and your
Herman
address.
Moses, 1264 Oxford Place. I lived there 55 years on the corner of Oxford and Mulberry. Pretty familiar with the street, which is approximately 7 dwellings on the street, facing the street, and 2 on the end facing Kenmore Street. So it's a very neighborly street, and it, as Sharon had mentioned, it was laid out in the 40s as single-family dwellings, and almost all of the lots in the area are single families. There may be some occasions that people have bought lots and so forth and combined them, but almost all of them are for single family. And it's, what I read here is the major change here is on Oxford Place. Oxford Place will be losing a single-family dwelling. That's a major decision that you have to make, because I'm in favor of it staying as a single-family dwelling for the neighborhood. It's only a 1-block street, and I think most of the neighbors that are on the street are very familiar with it and like the street, et cetera, et cetera. And we would like to see it remain as a single-family dwelling. That's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? Oh.
My name is Glenn Walker, and I live at 1248 Oxford Place. Me and my wife have been there for a while, and we know everyone on the street. Improvements are good. Construction is good. But where construction operates to the reverse of the existing landowners, then you have a situation. Across the street from me is a big open field with a partial driveway. So I walk out my front door and I look at a driveway. If this variance would continue, and I cannot understand why you would have a land adjustment or variance without some anticipation of putting something on it. And I believe that's how you get up these stairs, because you make application downstairs. But I'm here to tell you, I do not want to walk out my front door and look at somebody's driveway. That would defeat the purpose. There's only 6 houses on that street. Can you imagine the negative effect it will have on the market values of those houses? And here we're asking for a variance for property line adjustment. What comes next? In order to come up those stairs, I had to start downstairs and give the city a proposal in order to get a permit. And this particular piece of property with the present owner is a big T. A house was torn down in order to make a driveway. I do not want to come out my front door and look at somebody's driveway, because that's not the reason the people invested in that neighborhood. I could get emotional, but I refuse to do that. But I do know how getting a permit operates. You start downstairs, and they tell you who, what, when, and where. Then you come up those stairs, and you get a variance. So what is hidden that we can't see? A driveway? A picnic area? Another house? Just to get a setback provision? You all make that decision. But I guarantee you, what we see is not what we're going to get.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak in support of or in opposition to this case? Seeing no one, we're going to close the public hearing. With regard to a new, if there's hypothetically a subdivision, aside from the requested 5-foot variance, would the parcel meet minimum requirements?
Yes, so for when it comes to considerations of like lot provision size, in reference to square footage, size of the lot, structures on the lot, coverage in that amount, and setbacks of existing structures on the lot, everything else to our review is compliant. It would just be that 5 feet in the front that wouldn't be, based on the submitted plan to the Planning Commission. All other lot provision requirements of that district have been met, to my understanding.
Discussion? And, I mean, Mr. Thompson, can you speak to, I mean, the applicant, the plan is to consolidate, not to subdivide. I was just asking my question to maybe address some of the concerns voiced in the course of the public hearing.
Yeah,
So, why, if the applicant is looking to, can you speak to why, because this is being referenced as a front lot setback. If along this property line, is that even qualify as a front? If the applicant's consolidating the two parcels, should we really even be referencing this as
the frontage of it?
Yeah.
So
Is that because
if you look at the attached, the final kind of supporting doc for it, the one that's shown up there, that red line is going to be the new property line, and it's taking it's kind of easier to see in this picture. That's what the lots look like currently. There is the 336, which is her current residence, and then work with the property on Oxford, and they are taking that and going to subdivide it, combine it into this, which is based on the red line there. Those will be the current property lines, so there will be visually seen on there. So the only way to access the street from that property would still be out through Mulberry Street. And the applicant would be able to speak more to that if I've said anything that is incorrect, but that is to my understanding.
Are we able to clarify a couple of things about why we set those property lines?
Yeah, I'd like to hear.
Yeah, I mean, we'll just take this as not a technical rebuttal, but just an expatiation on earlier points.
Sure. I mean, I think our initial thought had been just to combine the two parcels. But because of the way that the zoning code works and creating through lots, we had to, propose giving some of that frontage along Oxford to 1249, which means you can't put a driveway readily through there, or something to that effect. So, we ran into the challenge of being able to, in a future, put an accessory structure on its own parcel without a primary structure. So that was sort of the problem we ran up against, and this is why we came to this set of conclusions. And anything that would happen moving forward is really going to respect the existing frontages along Oxford, as they are now, 1249, match that up. So that's sort of why we kind of came up with the dimensions that we did to kind of get the parcel, joined as such. And if you think about it, we're taking density out, and yes, it would be great to put another single-family home there, but there are instances where consolidation and putting one larger home on multiple parcels is sort of the norm in this neighborhood.
Right. Mr. Thompson, can you speak to if, I mean, the plan is to combine, to consolidate the parcels. If, just hypothetically, if we grant the 5-foot variance and the property owner then elects to subdivide, and there's a transfer, and a new property owner elected to develop another single-family dwelling. That's why I was asking the question, does this other lot meet all the minimum requirements? Would, down the road, a new property owner have to request the 5-foot? Which would then effectively, definitely be a front yard setback.
So, as this would be, let's say she would sell the property, because that, in the scenario of a new property owner becomes the owner and they want to build a single-family residence on Oxford Place, is that kind of what you're asking?
Yeah.
The avenue of which they'd be able to do that, because after this, it'll be 2 lots instead of 3, and you couldn't have a single-family dwelling or any dwelling on a lot in this district with another one. So what the avenue they would have to go down would just subdivide it back to 2 lots instead of 1. And then they wouldn't need to get the request, because this would only be tied to the Mulberry Street address, not to whatever a future consolidation could be if they subdivide it further.
Right.
And if the new law that would be designed by maybe a future owner wouldn't be compliant, then they would have to get whatever that would be on there.
Because, I mean, I'd like to see what it sounds like you are interested in pursuing is the lower density.
Which is in keeping with what the zoning district.
Right. But I'm trying to, I guess it's not, really doesn't come under, I shouldn't be anticipating too much. I don't know. Are you trying to, we're often asked to alleviate hardship in what is a reasonable use of property. Is there a hardship that you're trying to alleviate at all? Can you maybe speak to that?
A special condition or attribute of the property itself.
Right.
The hardship would be what I want to build, or what I want, the way I want to use the lot, I wouldn't be able to do.
But it sounds, right, okay. But your plan is almost non-use of your lot. You're just consolidating and not building out structures. It's, you're trying to...
We were planning for the possibility, I could leave it as the next arboretum in the middle of Sunrise, or I could put an accessory structure there.
Right.
But you can't do it on its own parcel without a primary. So we somehow have to attach it somewhere.
Right.
So that's the hardship.
That's, yeah, I think that's what we said in our package.
Okay. Thank you. Do we have discussion on? Thank you very much for the findings of fact. They're very detailed.
Excuse me.
We've kind of closed the public hearing, but did you want to offer rebuttal, or?
Yes.
All right, go ahead, approach, and just, can you restate your name and address in offering rebuttal?
The present owner has been very investment minding as far as our community is concerned. But let me ask you, why would I need a adjustment to property that I already own, left and to the right. There's only 2 houses on the other side of the street from me. And she owns 3 lots. Why is it necessary for there to be an adjustment to the setback? Why is that necessary?
Consolidation.
I can understand it if you're going to sell a property in the future. But right now, we just got a load of gravel in front of our house. And to make an adjustment to the property line, that sounds to me like a real good deal for the seller.
Right, and we consider these variances, they're unique to the property. So that's why we're doing our due diligence now to try to determine if the requested 5-foot variance is reasonable or not, in accordance with the findings of fact that have been provided to us in our deliberations.
Well, again, I understand, you all's concern and understand you being in an authoritative position. But for a landowner to say, wait a minute, there was a house here. There's no house there. Oh, there was a lot there. Oh, there's another house there. But I'm sorry, I feel that as an individual and an investor, that I do appreciate the rules and regulations.
Right.
And one of the things that I have learned over the years is what we call a rule of law. You don't change the law to fit the defendant. But I can tell you right now that there's probably 150 or 60 feet in front of my house, and nobody lives there. So what's the game plan? Is to adjust the property line? Come on. You should get a variance so you can say, hey, you can build this and you can build that. Been down this road before, and I do know that downstairs they ask you for documentation. They don't give it to you, so you come up them stairs to get a variance. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people in that block. The last group of people to buy a house probably had to spend $700,000 or $800,000. Do you think they want to look at somebody's driveway? I don't think so. I don't think so.
Thank you.
I have a question.
We've kind of closed the public hearing. Can you just ask the question there, and we'll try to address it?
Sure, Herman Moses.
Yeah, what's the question?
I read this, and it sounds like all the activity is on Oxford Place. Isn't that right? The property on Oxford Place. And from what I understand from discussions, it's currently a single-family dwelling in the district. Isn't that true?
Currently, it would be a empty parcel in a single-family residential district.
Well, it's a parcel, but it's a single
Within that district.
dwelling.
There's no dwelling at that property, but it is a single-family dwelling district
Well, that's
with a
what's
vacant
here.
parcel. That was their findings of fact that they filled out by the applicant. But that currently, as shown there, that top parcel, in reference to you commenting about the Oxford side, it is currently an empty lot in a single-family residential dwelling district.
So what you have here is changing it, losing the single-family dwelling parcel in this with outreach. You're really you're changing the Mulberry Street frontage to a rear frontage on Oxford Place. You can see that on the map up there. And in that, you're losing the single-family dwelling property for a house. Isn't that true?
It sounds as if that parcel would still be developable as a single family.
No.
So what is being presented is that there are 3 parcels, and they're going to take one of them and consolidate most of it into another parcel. So there will be 3 parcels that will go to 2 parcels. And in a single-family residential dwelling district, you can only have one principal use per parcel.
Right.
So you're losing that Oxford Place single-family dwelling. That's just what you just said.
But
You would lose
I
a
would say-
vacant property currently.
I would argue that the consolidation from 2 to a single parcel is more consistent and compatible with the current characteristics of the neighborhood in terms of density. No?
I don't hear anyone complaining about density, never have. On the street or in the area.
All right, we've closed the public hearing. No additional questions.
So
ahead.
in the findings of fact, it states that they want to build an accessory structure on 1257, and the only way to do that is to combine it with their primary residence, because the code doesn't allow constructing an accessory structure on a standalone parcel. Is that not subject to a variance or conditional use itself?
So if, I will go back to that one to
Because it's
show.
on the adjacent
If-
parcel.
Yeah, if they were to build an accessory structure on that adjacent parcel, it wouldn't be permitted. It would be an additional, variance request or something like that.
Because it's
But
an
there's-
accessory, not a principal. It's not allowed.
You have to get it,
Right, but
you would be
they
back.
could be asking that instead of this.
They would be back here for it, because it's just not permitted. It just
And we
wouldn't be
don't know the
varianceable.
setbacks or anything, but if we were to do that, there's no way to understand where that should be.
Right.
That was our problem to begin with.
My kind of concern here is that we're talking about a lot of hypotheticals and a lot of things outside of the scope of what we're supposed to actually be paying attention to, which is just this one request from a variance that's really the entire scope of our focus.
Right.
And
My
and I'm kind of convinced by what we saw earlier that this would not be remotely out of
The 5-foot request,
incongruent with the rest of the neighborhood.
it's not inconsistent with the other, on the other parcels in the neighborhood. It's,
And there's a handful right there.
it's not unreasonable. It's not.
I understand the rest of it. I mean, I would have those concerns too, but that's outside our purview.
It is outside our purview. And I shouldn't have done as much of, you're right about the anticipating possible scenarios that may play out. That's not our, that's not our responsibility. Really, I think the heart of the matter is.
And that's really more of a planning
Right.
scope thing to review, and they've done that to some extent. These concerns could have been lodged there as well, you know?
my response is the requested 5-foot variance request is not, it's not inconsistent with the other setbacks in the other parcels in the neighborhood.
No, that's kind of,
And it's only.
it's common.
And it's compatible and consistent with how this neighborhood was initially set up. And,
We can't, I mean, we can't be denying frontage variances based on the expectation that some other development is coming down the line.
so, in terms of the findings of fact, can the applicant speak to, the only way we can do this is to combine with a primary residence at 336 Oxford Place. Morgantown zoning code does not permit the construction of accessory structure on a standalone parcel without a primary structure. So, you can't, can you speak to, regardless of whether you consolidate or not, I mean, your intention is you want that accessory structure. Can you speak to why you can't build that on the, adjacent to the standing structure?
Well.
Just speak to that.
So, okay, you're meaning 1249?
Just- Yeah.
So 1249 is a guest cottage for my client. 336 is her primary residence. She wants to have the flexibility. That may not be always her guest cottage, right? But whatever she's doing, that use is going to be associated with her health and her wellness and her personal use of that space.
Right.
An extension of her garden, which is, quite fantastic. And, I think that's why we decided to combine those two. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense to try to put that together with 1249, which is not her primary residence.
Right.
And really, you can't build any kind of accessory structure on a standalone apartment. I mean, if we wanted to put the shed that we had in our last discussion, you can't put anything on that parcel without combining it. That's really the conundrum we've come up against. So it really makes use of that property for anything associated with her primary residence impossible. That's what that means.
Right.
And we don't necessarily have a plan. We're kind of starting out, and this is really early in the process. So I don't have designs that are just going to be unveiled. We don't have something, we're kind of working together to figure out what this wants to be. I don't know the design really, besides kind of figure out what can we do.
And then, Mr. Thompson, can you speak to, has this gone before planning at all yet, or no?
The planning commission or the planning department?
Planning commission?
Yeah, so this has gone in front of the planning commission, and they've conditioned on their approval of it that they come here and receive a variance for the 5 feet frontage
Right.
setback. But it has gone to the Planning Commission, and the Planning Commission approved it with conditions. In regards to the new lot lines.
Right. I mean, again, I'm going to go back to my initial responses, the 5 foot, it's not inconsistent, incompatible with the aerial characteristics of the neighborhood. On the other hand, I don't know if you've demonstrated how our granting your requested variance is going to help us, not that we're there to relieve you of hardship, but you haven't really you haven't spoken compellingly to demonstrate the level of the hardship that you're looking to, help your client with.
Well, there's supposed to be a special condition or attribute of the property itself that's not just unique to the owner. So you should be able to find the unique special condition or attribute by looking at the property itself, not at the owner or how they want to use it.
I guess the hardship really comes down to, they can't build the accessory structure with the current property configured, how it's configured currently. And then reconciling that to...
The hardship was made by allowing these to be combined.
Right.
The parcels to be combined in the first place. And
That's
now-
right, that's true. And then, again, unwinding what's already been wound.
But there's also a little bit about balancing the interest of the property owner against the need to protect the public.
Yeah, I mean, the accessory building, that's not an unreasonable use of the property, it's really not.
Yeah, people always have
That's-
good reasons for wanting to do one thing or the other, but variances are really supposed to alleviate special conditions or weird things about the property itself that make application of the zoning code to that property itself like an overly burdensome. And it really doesn't matter about the
That you
particular
have no
owner
control over.
himself.
And what militates against that is, ironically, is the 5-foot request kind of flies in the face of the unique characteristic that we're looking for.
Well, I think they did, there is a special condition, but it was created by the parcels being combined.
In the first place.
And frankly, but the variance itself is not, I don't think there's an adverse impact to the neighborhood because the rest of the neighborhood is like this already.
That's where I was
Right.
going to go. There's not a lot of harm. I can't see harm to the public or harm to adjacent neighbors in any of what we're doing.
Yeah, because it's not as if, and maybe I'm misreading some of the statements that were made in the course of the public comment period. It seems like they're heading in two different directions. What I'm hearing from you is you're requesting this out of a good faith attempt to develop the property in such a way that it's not going to be, what you're proposing is not at all inconsistent or incompatible with the characteristics of the neighborhood at all. And in that regard, my inclination is to move to accept the findings of fact and grant the variance. Because what you're proposing is not, it does not fly in the face of the current characteristics of the neighborhood. And I think, I hear the statements made by those who live in the neighborhood, but I don't think what you're proposing is out of character with the character of the neighborhood.
Agreed.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree.
I move to accept the findings
And
of
I
fact.
second that motion to accept the findings of fact. Mr. Thompson, can you speak to, before we even vote on the accepting or not accepting the findings of fact. Can you speak to conditions reference
Yep.
in this case?
There is one condition on this variance, being any other modifications or changes to the site plan shall be compliant with the city's planning and zoning code, or the applicant shall seek variance relief from the Board of Zoning Appeals. As previously stated, if there are any changes to the site plan or any submissions relative to this property, they have to be compliant with the zoning ordinance. If they are not, they will either return to the Board of Zoning Appeals and make a request, or they will make it compliant to the current ordinance. And that is the only condition upon this variance.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we have a motion to accept the findings of fact for VAR 25-054. Seconded. How do we vote?
Aye.
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 Okay. So we've accepted the findings of fact for VAR 25-054. Do we have a motion to grant the requested 5-foot variance request?
I'll move to grant with Planning's condition, sorry.
Condition.
I second.
Okay, so we have a motion to grant the variance by Mr. Misfelt, seconded by Ms. Cook. How do we vote?
Aye.
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 We've granted your request. You will receive written notification from planning, generally within a week, but please keep in mind that the decision we just rendered is subject to appeal in the Montague Circuit Court, and any work that you undertake in that 30-day appeal window, you do at your sole financial risk. Thank you very much. All right. Let's see. Next case is VAR 25-060, Page Store and Todd Moore's, 495 Falling Run Road, request by Page Store and Todd Moore's for variance relief from section 1335.04 of the city's planning and zoning code regarding setback requirements, City Tax District 12, 3rd Ward, Tax Map 20, Parcel 484 in the R1A Single Family Residential District. Mr. Thompson?
Yep. As shown on the presentation as well in the packets, here is similar to the other cases, a kind of aerial view of the property, as well as the distance that letters were sent out using. Here's a further zoomed in look at the property to provide a better kind of visual. The third attachment on here is a survey that the applicant has submitted showing the property's current property lines, layout, etc. As well as on here is an additional image which will make a little bit more sense once I read through the rest of the report, but this is showing that front of that property. If you go back to the previous submitted kind of parcel view out, there on the side, on the front of the property, that is the picture there. If you're standing on the ground looking in towards the property, that is kind of what it looks like. So, the applicant wishes to construct a single-family residence at the referenced address. This would be a smaller-sized home, which the applicant desires to be placed near the center of the property. The lot itself has multiple hills and steeper graded areas. This would be an example of one of those ones, and during their portion, they could speak to other parts of the property that have, grade considerations. Which the applicant stated would cause issues for the construction to move this development in a manner to be compliant with setback requirements. In relation to that, in summary, the applicant is wishing for an additional 8 feet to their maximum front setback, as well as relief from providing 2 off-street parking spaces on the property. Please see the attached application to review the findings of fact listed, as staff have had no comments or modifications to these. This attachment can be found below the conditions listed in the packet. Staff have no objections to the applicant's request for variance relief. If the Board of Zoning Appeals does grant the applicant variance relief from the section 1335.04 of the city's planning and zoning code, the lot shall be subject to the following conditions, which is the similar condition to the other ones, but I'll still read it. Any other modifications or changes to the site plan shall be compliant with the city's planning and zoning code, or the applicant shall seek additional variance relief from the Board of Zoning Appeals. And that will conclude my staff report.
Thank you very much. Do we have a representative for this case?
Hello, my name is Todd Moores. My address is 200 Thatcher Lane, Wheeling, West Virginia.
Thank you.
So, as Mr. Thompson stated, you can see there, go back.
That one or the original?
That one, yeah.
Okay. Would you like the pointer?
Yeah, thank you.
There you go.
You can see that Falling Run Road bisects the line of the lot. So the lot line is basically in the middle of Falling Run Road. And if I could show you, I meant to get this picture on but it didn't show up.
No, that's fine.
This is the corner of the lot, of my lot.
Right.
Okay, and then this is that hillside.
The berm.
Showed in the picture. And so when the 8-foot and then the 20-foot, when you start from the line,
Right.
you're too far.
Oh, yeah.
Before you even get off the road.
Yep.
So that's our hardship, basically. We make it, as easy as possible for everybody.
Yep.
And so what we'd like to do is get a variance that the home would start some feet back from that bank.
Right.
Because we don't want to set it too close to the edge of the bank. And if you look here, there is also, this is a rather steep grade here, okay?
Yep.
So there, on that lot, there's a small area to build a house.
Right in there. Yep.
And so it will fit there, but it won't fit within that variance.
Yeah, sure.
And then the parking situation, you can see how that would be a problem too. So that's what we're requesting.
So what is the plan for parking? You're saying,
Is there a drive or?
Yeah.
Can you
No,
speak to the?
There is no drive, no. So I'll show you this, the entrance to the lot is these stairs here. That's the old entrance. There was a home there.
Oh, right on the bank.
Okay.
We demolished it. And we're requesting that the home sit basically where the previous home did sit.
Okay.
And now, we possibly could get enough area in here, in this area here,
Right.
for a parking spot. It wouldn't meet the, like,
Two
size
cars,
requirements, but, and then, past this stairs.
Right.
We could do the same, like, on the edge of the street.
Right.
It wouldn't meet the.
Parallel to the,
Yes, sir, yeah. Parallel to the line, yeah. And so, sometime in the past, somebody built the road and built it on
Didn't survey.
on our lot, and,
Right.
that was our plan that's my plan for parking, but hopefully that would work out.
all right.
You have any other questions for me?
I
don't think so, no.
These are, this is like a textbook one.
Yeah.
You've got a weird property line in the middle of the road,
Yep.
weird topography.
Yep.
This is what variances are for. Like, these are
Apart from what's more, the parking, I guess, is the more problematic aspect.
Say one more thing.
Of course.
I would have them reapproach.
That is
Yeah, can you reapproach just for the sake of the microphone? Thanks.
That is a dead end.
Oh, is it?
It is.
Oh, all
yeah.
right. Past the
Past the
stairs.
stairs, there is the Falling Run green space.
Oh, yeah.
Is that the name of it? I'm sorry, I don't know.
About there-ish is the end of the road.
Right.
So just
And
a
then-
circle back in.
Yeah, across the road is Mub's, I don't know, building, yeah. They have something.
Oh, yeah, okay. Right now.
But if you, like this is basically the end of the road. And then this is like a walking area, like a green space.
Yeah, it's like a trail.
Yeah, trail, yeah.
Yeah.
So we were hoping that, since it is a dead-end road, we could kind of get those parking spaces in there, without, it wouldn't cause any trouble for anybody passing,
Right. Yeah, I mean, of the two issues, the parking issues, of the two, is the more problematic, and even that's not problematic. Because
of the way
again,
it's
it's the contours and the layout of the parcel determines where the parking
Yeah.
is going
And
to
I can see if it
go.
was a through street, I can see that
Right.
the parking would be more
Right.
concerning.
That's
but
another good
in my
point.
opinion, it's not because it's a dead end.
Right.
But, that's just my opinion.
And that's, again, but
Good to know.
that's
Good to know.
specific to this parcel.
Yeah.
That one way is specific to this.
Yeah, and I don't foresee any future development past that.
No. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Discussion? Oh, actually, let's go ahead and just open the public hearing. I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak in support of or in opposition to this case, please do so now. Seeing no one, close the public hearing. There's no correspondence on this one, just to note that for the record. Discussion? I mean, I've already offered my discussion.
Like you said, cut and dry.
Yeah, I think this
So
is,
I'm going to,
Go ahead.
do you have anything further to?
No, it was just if you were going to be the one to motion it.
Yes. So I'm moved to accept the findings of fact for VAR 25-060.
I second.
We have a motion to at least consider the findings of fact, seconded by Ms. Cook. How do we vote?
Aye.
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 Do we have a motion to grant the variance?
Yes, I move that we grant the variance with the condition as stated in the packet from the city.
Seconded.
And then, again, so this is requesting an additional 8 foot, and then relief from the parcel parking requirements. Those are the two variances that we're addressing. Okay, so we have a motion to grant the variance. We do?
Yes.
And seconded
Seconded, yeah.
by Mr. Misfeld. How do we vote?
Aye.
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 And then, again, subject to the condition. So we have granted the variance. You will receive written notification from planning within a week or so. Please keep in mind that the determination we just rendered is appealable in the Circuit Court of Montague County. It's a 30-day appeals window, so any work that you undertake during that 30-day period, you do at your sole financial risk. Thank you very much. Have a good evening. And we are moving on to our last, well, it's a transfer. It's not, do we want to reference, I mean, it's not really, we haven't assigned a case number. It's requested transfer conditional use permit for Mutt's Place from Blodgett Hospitality LLC to Hot on the Trot LLC for the purpose of operating a conditional private club use at 263 Beechhurst Avenue, City Tax District 12, Tax Map 19, Parcel 22.1 in the 4th Ward. No case number.
So, yes, this, and I'll get into it, but the case number would be that CU 13.
Oh, okay, thank you.
It's
not in the packet, but it is CU
This is
13.
conditional use.
correct, yeah, it was a condition of an older condition put on it, so we referenced that original.
Yeah, no, that's,
one of it.
because it's just a transfer.
Yep.
Yep,
Perfect.
okay. Yep, all right, as you said, just here's a visual indicator of just kind of where that's located, just for reference, also included in the packet for visuals, just to give context of it. So, background, on May 2nd, 2013, the Board of Zoning Appeals reviewed an application for conditional use approval to operate a private club use at 263 Beechhurst Ave, more commonly known as Mutt's Place. After review, the findings of fact associated with the case were found in the positive, and the board granted the conditional use permit with with conditions, Please see the attached action letter dated 5/3/2013, more information. So in granting the conditional use permit, the Board of Zoning Appeals noted that the beneficiary of the conditional use granted herein in specific to Mutt's Place Incorporated and may not be transferred without prior approval of the Board of Zoning Appeals. As such, the applicant is requesting to transfer the ownership of the establishment to Hot on the Trots LLC. In speaking with the applicant, the hours of operation and menu will not change, and to our knowledge, there will be no work or any additional development involved other than just exchanging ownership of that.
Right.
So staff have no objections to the applicant's request to transfer ownership of the property, and no conditions or et cetera.
But it is a private club, right?
Correct. The use will not be changing, but the use is a private club use.
Does that represent a change? It's not going from something to private club, right?
Correct. It is a private club
Currently.
that is going to continue operating as a private club, just under new management.
And then-
New ownership, excuse me.
And then everything that well, I mean, you mentioned menu, no anticipated changes, but everything that goes along with private club.
Correct. To our knowledge, there is no change involved with this, and if there would be, it would have to still be compliant as if the current owner, or, before the transfer, were to make a change.
Right.
No change of standards or changement of enforcement of those would change based on who owns the property.
Right.
Okay.
Do we have a representative for this requested transfer?
And Eli Martinez, 409 Marlowe Circle. I noted that in the finding of fact number 1, I believe that is all in reference to 2013 when this was originally, but it talks about Mutt's Place being in operation for 30-plus years up on University Avenue, and it was moving down to Beechhurst. So it's been about 12 years since then, so now we're closer to 45 to 50 years of Mutt's Place being in operation between those two locations. And there have been a few owners within that time. As far as I know, nothing has changed. I'm actually currently the general manager of Mutt's Place. I have been since 2022. I've been a general manager at a bar on High Street as well since 2011, so I do have experience in the industry. And in saying that, since essentially running the place for the past 3 years, there will be no changes. It's the name of the bar will continue to be Mutt's Place. The hours of operation will stay the same. The menu will stay the same. We're not adding anything to the structure. We're not taking anything away. It's literally just the change of the LLC.
Like a rebranding?
Correct. One thing I do want to note, I know like in finding of fact number 5, talks about the apartments. I'm not purchasing the building. There are apartments above the bar. So things like that don't really apply in this situation, because I am just purchasing the business, not the building. So the building would stay under the current owner.
Okay. So, but you're purchasing it outright, you're not leasing your space, right?
Yes, I would be renting.
You are? Okay.
Yes, I would pay rent to the landlord who currently owns the building and the business.
All right. Right.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions?
No.
Thank you. I mean, it's...
Very cut and dry.
Does anyone have any issues with any of the findings of fact? Let's go ahead and open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to open to speak in support of or in opposition to this case, please do so now. Seeing no one, I'm going to close, and we want to note there's no correspondence submitted for this case. Closing the public hearing. Well, I'll just make a motion to accept the findings
So
of fact.
he still had to get one even though the owner already had it?
Yeah, so based in just the condition of if the ownership is to be transferred, if the next person has to get the conditional use.
Because it goes with the owner, not with the property.
But that's just the business, the property is still
So
owned by that same
when-
owner, right?
To the best of my understanding, when this private club use was approved conditionally, that was a condition tacked onto the use being approved in that
To that
spot.
specific owner.
So if,
That whoever's operating the business also has to get one? Has to,
for that private
There's a
club.
change.
So for like Mutt's Place, getting its conditional use to be a private club at that location, they had to go through the conditional use process, and a condition on that for Mutt's Place specifically was to, if it ever exchange ownership, to come back and get that as a condition.
Okay.
Whereas if they were to leave this location and it be vacant for an amount of time and another private club comes in, for example, they would have to go through the
They have to
whole
do it again,
kind
yeah.
of process of, our menu, our brand, seating, some of the other ones that you guys have seen during your time. So if it was like, I don't know, not Mutt's Place, they would have to go through the whole procedure. So as a condition, that was the condition on it. So for Mutt's Place, doesn't have to go back if they change ownership or change or something.
Okay.
It's like a break in the chain of title.
Okay.
And if that happens, then the transfer is required.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I move to approve the finding of facts.
A second.
Okay. We have a motion to consider approved findings of fact, seconded by Ms. Cook. How do we vote?
Aye.
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 I move to approve the transfer requested for, well, the original case is CU 13-05. We're going from Mutt's Place to, what's the name again? Sorry. Hot on the trial tell. So we're going from Mutt's Place, Lodge and Hospitality LLC to Hot on the Trot's LLC at the reference property 263 Beechhurst Avenue, City Tax District 12, Tax Map 19, Parcel 22.1, 4th Ward.
A second.
And we have a second. How do we vote?
Aye.
And no conditions for this, by the way.
Correct, there will be no conditions.
No conditions.
On this. Mhm.
Okay. So we have a motion, seconded by Ms. Cook. How do we vote?
Aye.
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 We have your transfer, written correspondence from planning, generally within a week, and this is still appealable.
Correct.
So, our determination, our decision that we just rendered, it can be appealed to the Circuit Court of Montague County. It's a 30-day appeals window, and any work that you do associated with your transfer during that period, you do at your sole financial risk. Thank you very much.
Question, I believe, Mr. Thompson.
Yep, go right ahead.
Correct.
So I just submit the exemption form that someone in your office would sign, and they send it directly to the agency head? Should I resubmit one of those? Or?
I would say reach out to Ricky Yeager, our director. I believe that's the main contact you've been talking to up to this point. He's the one in the planning department that handles all of that. So I don't want to give you an answer I'm not confident in. But I would say if you've been in contact with him, I would just say reach out to him, and it'll also probably be, he'd be able to just tell you, the way to proceed forward with it. To my understanding, I would say yes, but, I'd double check with him. He's the guy who covers it, those forms, so. Yep, no problem.
Thank you very much. Do we have any announcements?
We do. So you might have been on the correspondence. I don't believe I was, but I have seen it. Mr. Plyler will not be returning to the Board of Zoning Appeals. He is stepping away from the position.
Okay.
So we have another vacant seat and working to get those filled, because there's a couple currently. But yes, that's unfortunate
He's all
news.
right.
He will be stepping away from the Board of Zoning Appeals indefinitely.
So what about Logan and Gabe? Are they still actually on the?
Gabe is still involved with the BZA. Logan, however, is also not a part of the Board of Zoning Appeals anymore.
Okay.
So Plyler's was a recent retraction from it. Logan hasn't been on for a little while, and we're working to kind of get that. I know on here, it still says it on some of the documents.
I got you.
Yep. And then, yeah, and then he gave us forewarning that he would be traveling a lot in the summer.
Oh,
So-
okay, that was my, yeah, I remember.
Yep, otherwise, that's really the only special news.
Right. And then cases, I mean, the docket's
They
already
said we got
full,
5 more cases
isn't it,
coming up.
for August?
Yeah, there are 5 more cases on the August, about 5 on the next Board of Zoning Appeals meeting.
Good, all right.
As of this time. Yep.
Do we have?
I move we
so
adjourn.
All right, so we have a motion to adjourn.
Seconded.
Seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Just continue on.
Okay.